Hey YouTubians, it's Tony here from We Try Anything. The channel likes try anything, so you don't have to. In today's video we're going to take a look at another metal strap watch from the Casio vintage range, with this one being the CASIO A-168W, which has a module number of 1572. In this review, we will be looking around the CASIO A-168W, highlighting some of the materials used, the design of the watch, and mentioning some of the sizes along the way. We will then go through some of the functions that this watch has on offer, pop it on our wrist and say it's like to wear. There will be links below to the instructions of this watch in the description box, and an Amazon affiliate link if you wish to find out more about this watch. There will also be a tutorial video for this watch coming very soon, so don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. I tend to buy a lot of watches from eBay for the channel, as I like to show how these watches have worn over time. And in this example, you can see how the case has stood up to what I would imagine has been quite frequent daily wear. Also, sometimes they do come in a little cheaper, but I tend to find that by the time you have purchased and fitted a new battery and strap in some cases, you might as well spend the money on a brand new watch. But that is just in my experience. Now, like the CASIO A-163 watch review that I have carried out a few weeks ago, which you can find in the description box below, I did say that it was a much more upmarket version of the iconic F-91W, featuring the same module, inner workings in a nicer case and a metal braceleted style strap. The same goes with this watch. I see more of an upmarket version of the F-105W, as again it features the same inner workings in a much more stylish case and strap. So if you like the look of this watch and what it has to offer, but a metal bracelet strap isn't for you, then why not check out my review of the F-105W resin plastic style watch and see if it is the one for you, link of which is also in the description, and I've also put a card to the top right hand corner. Now, the other thing to mention of the CASIO A-168W, there is a lot of other metallic finishes available, which I'm showing you here, and styles. So if the silver one featured isn't for you, then I'm sure that Casio can come to the rescue with a version of the A-168W on offer that is more catered to your preferences. So with all that out of the way, let's take a closer look at the CASIO A-168W that we have featured here. Now, as I have mentioned, this watch in my eyes is a posher version of the F-105W, as it shares a lot of its traits but with a higher end look, and therefore it is very close in terms of sizing. Now, I'll just pop the F-105 over the top, and as you can see, it isn't far off in terms of how this watch is sized, and just pop that over the top there, and as you can see, it is very close to what I would say its resin styled brother. Now, the width of the case is 35mm from left to right, and from pusher to pusher you are looking at around 38mm, which is more or less what the F-105W is. Lug to lug, or top of the case to the bottom, you are looking at about 49mm, again not far off the F-105. Depth wise, it's 10mm, and materials are obviously where it differs. And in this case, pardon the pun, the CASIO A-168W features a plastic case that is coated with a chrome effect metallic finish. Now, one of the main reasons why I do buy off eBay to feature on the channel is this one has been pre-worn, and you can see where the metallic paint is coming away from what would be the plastic resin case. Now, what I would say is don't let that put you off. I don't know how this watch was worn before I took ownership of it. I mean, obviously, it's been through the wars. There's quite a few of the watches that I have featured on this channel, but I do like to show how these watches wear over time. And I would imagine if you look after it, obviously it's only worn for certain events, or you know, for certain environments or certain situations, then I would imagine that this watch, or the actual paint on what would be the case, would last a long time. But again, as I say, this is the reason why I do like to buy from eBay, because you do get an idea of how these watches wear. And also, the one thing you've got to remember is that it is a watch worth about £30 from the likes of Amazon, and you've got to remember what you get for that money. And I'm not saying that obviously £30 it's cheap. I mean, it's not cheap. It's a very affordable watch within the Casio vintage range, but you just got to remember that what you get for your money. I mean, you do get a very nice braceleted strap, and obviously you get that chrome effect case finish, and it wouldn't be a high-end metal finish or a high-end metal case, because obviously you're going to pay more. So for the £30, I would say it's still a decent offer. Now, Inner lug width, you are looking at 18mm, that's for the inner part there. And then, as I've mentioned about the metal strap itself, it is stainless steel, and it does flare out to near the watch case at around 22mm, and it tapers down to 15mm. And as you can see here, it's obviously the bracelet has got a what would be a catch here, and it is very easy to maneuver on the strap. All you got to do is see where the arrow is, please pop a little screwdriver or something just to lever it up, and then you can maneuver what would be the bracelet strap or bracelet stay back down, and then you can get it to your wrist thickness. And once it's set, it's easy to put on and take off. Carrying on talking about the bracelet, it is of a very nice quality. Again, you got to remember this watch tends to be around the £25 to £30 mark, so while it's probably not the most heaviest and thickest straps out there, it is definitely well worth the money. And looking at how this watch's strap is worn, it will contend with what would be daily wearable use. Now, the only thing I did notice on occasion when I was wearing it, and that was obviously when I was manoeuvring the watch on my wrist, is that you can sometimes nip the odd hair on your wrist, and I have avoided metal strapped watches for that point, but with this one it's only happened very rarely, and it's not something when I've worn it through daily use I have noticed at all, and if anything it's been quite comfortable to wear, but I'll talk about that more later on. Now, moving to the back of the watch, you have the usual stainless steel case back, which has the 4 screws that allow this case back to affix to the watch, and obviously with the screws you can just easily take the case back off and access the module to change the battery. Now, mentioning the battery, from new this watch should last you up to 7 years in terms of battery life, and that battery will power a quartz movement with a chronometric accuracy of up to 30 seconds per month. Now, as you can see here, it does mention that this watch is water resistant, and it does mention it on the front of the display as well. Now, it is, I would say, splash resistant. I wouldn't have it swimming or anything like that, but in terms of if you got caught out in a rain shower, you should be okay. But swimming, washing the car, or anything that involves water, I would probably keep away from it. Now, moving on to the front of the watch, the dial window is a flat acrylic resin crystal, and as you can see in this example, it is prone to scratching. Now, I haven't done my usual polywatch technique of getting rid of the scratches because I wanted to show you how these watches do wear. The overall watch face is, to me, very pleasing to the eye, and it does have that very nice retro aesthetic to it, and I do like the colouring of the decals as well. Nothing really screams out like you do get on some Casios. It is quite subdued in the way it looks, while still explaining what each of the foot buttons do and stuff like that, but I do like the actual aesthetic of this watch. Now, moving on to the digital display, it is simple, easy to read from a distance, as you can see here, and there is only what I would say is a small amount of ghosting going on here, and it is only at acute angles, and for me it doesn't detract from telling the time, because obviously you tend to have the watch facing you. But the one interesting thing, the F-105 does share the same module in this instance as the A-168W, but it doesn't have the same amount of ghosting, so I'm not sure what's going on there, whether it's I don't know, even though the module's same, might be the slightly different process in manufacturing, but it is a little bit, there's not very much ghosting on the right, but again, it doesn't detract from reading the time, and to me it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Again, with the display, there is a fair amount of information that is featured, and you do see that what would be the day, the date within the month, and the hours and the minutes and the seconds that are ticking away nicely there, which is super handy and easy to read. And speaking of the date, this watch also features what would be an automatic calendar feature, which accounts for 28 days in February. So once you have set it, they tend to say that it should keep the date correct. And also, the one other feature this watch has, it has what is known as 24-hour or 12-hour. Now, 24-hour is also known as military time in the USA, so you do have that handy little feature, which is very easy to access by pressing the bottom right button. The other standout feature, which it mirrors from the F-105W, is its electroluminescent display, which is advertised on the actual dial of this watch, and it is a backlit display which has got a very nice blue teal effect to it. Now, you can just see it changing here, and I have just popped a little video clip here of what it's like in darkness and semi-darkness, and it's only activated as long as you press the button. There's no delay or anything like that, so just bear that in mind. But again, for reading in low light situations and in darkness, getting the time or accessing any of the functions or seeing what this watch has to display is an absolute doddle in darkness, and it does add to the appeal of this watch. Now, talking about the rest of the watch's features, there's only a couple of more. This watch will feature what would be a daily alarm, and it also features a hourly signal, daily alarm, hourly signal, which is easily activated by pressing this button down the bottom right hand corner, and that it's very easy to set, and it's the same as setting what would be the timekeeping mode. And I am doing a tutorial video of this watch coming very soon, which will explain how to set that parameter. The other thing it's got a stopwatch as well, which measures up to 100th of a second, and it also has what would be a split capability to it as well. And it also, as well as measuring elapsed time, it will also allow you to indicate first and second finish time. So again, another thing I'll show you how to do in the tutorial coming soon. So I'll just stop it and reset. And that's it really. That's all the functions of this watch in a nutshell really. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pop this watch on my wrist and say what the CASIO A-168W is like to wear. So here it is on my 6.5-inch wrist, and once the bracelet is set up correctly to fit your wrist, the CASIO A-168W is comfortable to wear, and it doesn't inhibit hand movement whatsoever. And with its thickness of only being 10mm, there's no fear of getting your cuffs caught up with the watch's case. The only thing I've noticed when wearing it, and I have mentioned this earlier, is the strap does rarely nip at the hairs on your wrist, but it is very rare. But it didn't bother me much, and that is coming from someone who has avoided wearing metal braceleted watches for quite a while really. You don't feel that you are wearing this watch. I mean, this watch is about 49 grams in weight, and it just feels like you're wearing air, especially if you have been wearing a watch of this nature. And it is a nice watch to wear. As I say, you don't feel like you are wearing it, and the strap does look really nice on the wrist. Now, I like the overall look of this watch. I do find it does have that classy retro vibe to it, and in my opinion, I wouldn't see any issue wearing this with a suit, as much as I think it would look at home with more casual attire like jeans and a t-shirt. So it is a watch to suit a lot of situations. And overall, I do like the CASIO A-168W. I think it looks great. It's easy to set up and wear, and it is at a price point that should make it very obtainable for a lot of people. Now, the only issue I do see with this watch is that it is only splash resistant, but I wouldn't aim to go swimming with a watch like this or wash the car or anything like that. And if the metal materials used to make up this watch isn't for you, then I would probably look at the CASIO F-105W, as it is the resin version of this watch. But for me, if you are in the market for a pocket-friendly metal braceleted watch that has a great retro aesthetic with a stunning backlit display, which is very easy to access, and the buttons and the modes, I'm saying that now, and the buttons and the modes are really easy to get hold of, and it has the stunning backlight, which I mentioned, up to 7 years of battery life from new, then I feel you can't go wrong with the CASIO A-168W, which gets my thumbs up. So I hope you liked the featured review of this watch, and if you did, then click on the like button below. If you want to see more videos from the We Try Anything channel, including the tutorial of this watch, then click on the subscription button below. And thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.